Hello, and welcome to the DK Spring 2024 preview. I'm Sarah Hunter, editor of the Books for Youth and Graphic Novel sections at Booklist. Before I begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list are included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions and will pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. We have a wonderful event planned for you today, and we'll hear about some upcoming DK titles later in the program. But first, we will begin with a special interview with author Chris Haughton about his forthcoming title, The History of Information. Chris Haughton is an Irish designer and author living in London. He has published 7 books and an app. His books have been translated into more than 30 languages and have won awards in more than a dozen countries. Thank you so much for being here today, Chris.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Thanks for being here. We're excited to talk about the book today. Tell me about what sparked this project for you.
Well, there was kind of 3 things, really. I actually had this idea in 2006, which was long before I actually made any books at all, any picture books. And in Dublin, I studied graphic design or visual communication, my course was called. And I was really fascinated by that sort of the theory and the reading around the history of graphic design. So yeah, I graduated in 2001, and I had a lot of that in my head. Actually, one of the there's a fantastic book, A History of Graphic Design, Philip Meggs, which is really, I mean, he's a really brilliant design historian, and it doesn't sound very interesting, but actually it's absolutely fascinating, and it kind of made me realize that visual culture is really sort of the thing, or one of the things that drives culture, and this was so fascinating to me. You know, the avant-garde of all graphic design is kind of the leading force of all of culture, going from, as he sort of describes it, going from sort of cave art to hieroglyphs to manuscript culture, and just how information technology. So that was my college. And then after college, I traveled, I sort of bummed around the world really for about 2 years, living all over the place and this sort of thing. And I met lots of interesting people, and one guy in particular switched me on to Noam Chomsky. He literally said, "Wait here, I'm going into this bookshop," and he went into the bookshop and he bought me Deterring Democracy by Noam Chomsky, and he said, "Please read this, you're going to love it." And it was very dense, and I was like 20 years old, and I wasn't really that. But I kept it for like about a year or so, and then I eventually had time to read it, and it was absolutely. I'm so grateful for him to do that. So that was another thing that I thought, wow, this is propaganda and graphic design. And then in 2006, I discovered that there was some news about this first college in the world was putting all of its undergraduate talks online for free. And there was a big hoo-ha in the press about it because, this is our free internet and, we're getting all information. And so I thought, oh, great, and I sort of went on to the philosophy and psychology courses, things that I thought I'd be interested in. And I realized it really depends on the lecturer, it really,
Yeah.
it's like 80% the lecture and the rest is the topic. And so I was flicking through and, some of it was, going in and then this one course just caught my eye. It said the history of information. And I was like, what is that? So I clicked that and immediately I was just hooked. And I discovered later that there was two lecturers, Jeffrey Nunberg and Paul Duguid, and they're both fantastic. But Jeffrey Nunberg actually had his own radio show on NPR, Fresh Air, and so he's a linguist. He's absolutely phenomenal speaker, and they both are. And what they described it was pretty much this history of graphic design going, the history of information technology going from language to, well, they did it to writing, manuscript cultures and so on to the internet. But it just made me realize that kind of information is the key to everything. Anytime there's a sort of new information technology comes along, it just upends society. And, so for example, once news and newspapers come along, we have suddenly democracy coming out everywhere, American Revolution, French Revolution, all of these things. And in every case, there's this pattern that we follow the information technology. So to me, I just thought this is the most amazing story I've ever heard. I have to do something with this. And I was doing that. But then, I'd never made a book before or whatever. And then, I started doing the picture books, but I always had this in my mind. So that's the answer to how I got to this book.
It's your project before picture books. This is the one that drives everything.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a really huge topic, as you mentioned, that has a significant impact on our current information age. And I'm curious about how you narrowed down your focus for the book, because obviously the book can't be like 12 volumes long.
Yeah. It's about 100 times the length of the word count is about 100 times the length of any of my other books. So I don't know about narrowing it down, but so well, I pretty much followed Jeff and Paul's course. That they had 20 lectures, each an hour long, and so to make it sort of simpler, I sort of fused some of them, and I glossed over some other ones, whatever. But so I have language. I added in drawing because I just couldn't resist. And well, they covered drawing kind of as well, but in a way to lead up to writing. But so I think it's actually very interesting, this whole idea of sort of representation. You need to start with representation, like mark making, before you can get to drawing, and then you have to get to drawing before you can get to writing. And this is how we all learn anyway. I just think it's very interesting. So I added in drawing. So it's language, drawing, writing, print, and then science. And then they argue that, you know, print gave us science, and there's, you know, how all of these books and data, recording data accurately, and so very much how print led to science, and then a little bit about science, the history of science, and then goes to news and newspapers, and all the you know, democracy and how that affected us. Then networks. So first of all, road network and post. All roads lead to Rome, and, you know, big map of Europe, and how the Roman Empire's communication network was its roads. So post, telegraph, telephone, and then, you know, obviously the telephone lines that led to the internet, and then broadcast, which is, you know, radio and TV, and then computers, the internet, and then I've added, I mean, this was from 2006, so I've added sort of AI, and I also kind of added a sort of, because I was trying to figure out how to end the book, and it's sort of a nice way of wrapping it up, and I like to sort of bring it back to the beginning again, and so I've sort of wrapped it up as it's sort of philosophical, and because in the end, our minds, our brains are information processors. So, you know, in a sense, everything is, you know, information, and really that's the only world we know is you know, what our brains create for us. Yeah, that's basically how I narrowed my focus. I kind of, yeah, I forgot to mention, I also added in well, Jeff and Paul talk about disinformation as well, and propaganda, but that was a sort of a chapter that I kind of wanted to put in it. So right before computers, I cover disinformation. So, and I go from sort of the beginning of, well, imperialism, so sort of the beginnings of the mass media, you know, when propaganda is taking form, you know, so only there in the mass media, so the end of the 19th century. So racism, you know, as the imperial powers are sort of colonizing the world, they're sort of spreading this message that, oh no, you know, we need to look after these people, you know, they're incapable of governing themselves, you know, we're good, you know. So there's this sort of thing, and then moving into the First World War, Second World War, and then into kind of consumerism and advertising, PR, Edward Bernays, and a lot of what sort of Noam Chomsky and stuff like that talks about.
Big scope.
Yeah, I mean,
I asked you how you narrowed it down, and I think you actually told
expanded
me
it out. Yeah, well, yeah. I should just say, actually, I'm very good. Like, well, Jeff Nunberg sadly passed away a few years ago, but Paul is helping us on editing it. So it's a really nice thing in the end to I reached out to them in 2010, actually, you know, trying to figure out if because I originally thought, you know, you guys write it and I'll illustrate it, and anyway, it didn't quite work out like that, but he's helping edit it, and we're so grateful to Paul. He's absolutely amazing.
That's wonderful. As you were researching the book, was there anything you learned that you didn't have space to include but really wanted to, that you could share with the rest of us?
Yeah, well, actually, when your questions came in, and I was thinking about them, I've now added it in, this thing yeah, one of the most interesting characters in the story is Norbert Wiener, Have you come across him? He he's a kind of information theory, and he wrote this book called cybernetics in the 1950s. He coined the term cyber, and his theory is that information is control, like control, like so. He talks about information in machine and animals, so like or in humans and animals. In the brain, we see things, we respond to them, and we act on that. So we might move closer to a goal, we might move away from a predator, and so that we're displaying behavior. And so both animals and machines kind of can have this behavior, information control. And he was saying, like, what's the most simple way of having information, having an information processor? And he was saying, well, it's kind of like a thermostat. There's only two controls, or one action or two actions. If the temperature drops down below a certain threshold, then it goes on, and if it goes above a certain threshold, it goes off. So this can be said to be an information processor, because it's taking data and responding to it. So information is control. That this is his sort of theory, and he coined this word cyber, which is Greek from a rudder in a ship, and it's also the root of the word for government. It's governor and government. So kybernetes, I think, is the Greek term. So and he called it cyber. So, and the way he saw it was that everything is controlled by information, not just animals, humans, machines, but everything, society, even things in nature, everything. Basically, there's no, is there time and space? It's all just information. So I couldn't find a way of adding him in, but I managed to. So it kind of wraps up a bit at the very end, where you're saying, well, actually, what is information? Let's take a look at that. And so, but there was a few other things that I didn't do too much about. Indian culture, and I would have liked to, like in another edition, maybe I can kind of get onto that. And there was a thing about also, Paul really wants me to put in stuff about Harold Innes. I don't. He was Marshall McLuhan's tutor, and his theory is that, so all of the civilizations we're dominated by information. That's all. That's what creates a civilization, and that the different civilizations have different characteristics because of their are they time bound or space bound. So he says, like, if you write on paper, that means you can send messages very easily in a larger space, so you can expand your empire. And if you don't have the ability to do that, if you're writing on stone, you can't send messages that far. It just doesn't work. So, and I think it's really annoying. I couldn't, but I couldn't add him in. But it's so interesting. And another edition. Give me 10 more years, and I'll
10 more years, 10 more volumes, and then you'll be there.
yeah.
So you mentioned before you work as an illustrator, you're trained as a graphic designer, and the book is very visual. I'm wondering how your work as an illustrator, specifically communicating information for young, often pre-literate kids, shaped your approach to how you wrote and designed the book.
Yeah, well, I don't know if my work as an illustrator for young children has informed it so much as the work I was doing before I was a children's illustrator. So in the sort of 10, 15 years between when I graduated and started as a children's book illustrator, I I used to do a lot of work for, I mean, Time magazine and Guardian, lots of sort of, adult magazines, newspapers. And generally what I was asked to do was illustrate some sort of new phenomenon on the internet, because it was around that time. It was sort of
Mm.
2000 to 2012 or whatever, and all these new things were coming out on the internet. There was an article coming out about it, but you can't take a photo of it.
Right.
So it's like, what do we do? Oh, we need to ask an illustrator
Mhm.
to picture this somehow. So I was doing these sort of characters with fishing lines, the sort of shopping online, or all these sort of little metaphors for
Mhm.
what the internet is. And it was that really that kind of informed this book, because well, I'd already had the idea for the book, but I was just thinking, yeah, this would be great in the book. And one of the things that I really well enjoy doing, and I think is really quite interesting about this book, is it's kind of as we go from language and cave art and stuff like that to the internet, the the look of the illustrations change. So it's very crude at the beginning. That they look like these sort of scrawled stick men that have been scrawled on a you know uh, on a cave. And then as we get to sort of manuscript culture, you can kind of see, I mean, still wonky lines because they're not really using rulers and stuff like that, but it's and hand drawn. And then as we get into sort of 17th, 18th, 19th century, you can see it sort of suddenly everything's straight, and and the perspective and things like that coming in. So it you kind of it get I hope it gives you a sense of like what they had to deal with back then. It's always at the sort of the cutting edge of technology. um so you kind of have some sort of sense of how it is, because you kind of go, oh yeah, they didn't have paper, so they're just like scrolling with ochre on a rock.
Mhm.
So yeah.
You sort of answered my next question, which was how working on this book shapes how you view your illustration work. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that.
um what yeah, like how, yeah, I think, I mean, before, like your research for this book, did it change the way you think about it, your work as an illustrator? I think, I mean, before photography, really, illustrators were the shapers of our visual culture.
Mhm.
And it's really quite striking. I mean, things like witches, witches
Mhm.
with their pointy hats and their brooms. Where did
Mhm.
that image come from? Oh, it came from early newspapers,
Mhm.
where so some illustrator was like, oh yeah, I mean, well, it's debatable where the pointy hat thing came from. It's, there's a lot of different theories, but it was an illustrator that created what is now this massive thing in our visual culture. And not only that, but like, I mean, Napoleon, there's this sort of idea that he was short. Actually, he was tall for his uh, taller than average at the
Mhm.
time. It was only caricaturists, British caricaturist Gilray, actually. He
Mhm.
was always depicting him as this tiny man, as propaganda. And this is, then the beginning of propaganda, when we have these visual culture things that are being transmitted through this growing press. The circulation is growing then at this point. So there's that, and then there's also at the very beginning, in the language section, actually there's a fantastic I don't know if you know the orality and literacy, Walter on. Actually, there's loads of that I would love to have included, but couldn't. That he talks about is the four R's: rhyme, repetition, redundancy, and rhythm. And these are the sort of things that we respond to. It's oral culture that we so like redundancy would be he huffed and he puffed and he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. You're saying the same thing over and over again, but it's you can kind of join in, and if you miss it the first time, you'll catch it. You'll definitely catch it because it's being repeated, and that's really important in oral culture because nothing is written down. So you need to communicate this to your audience and make sure that they're completely got it. And this is what I mean. Young children can't read yet. They don't even have full language capability. So it's very important to repeat and repeat and repeat. And those four R's, rhythm, rhyme, repetition, redundancy, it's everything like that. They're the four things that make a picture book good. And I think that's really important. And that's a phenomenal book. Actually, I'll show you this. This is Paul's book. Isn't that cool? Wow. Information. Like, it's 850 pages.
Wow.
And so this is what we sort of brought down to make a children's thing. So thank you, Paul.
Yeah. That seems a great ending point because we are out of time. Thank you so much, Chris, for talking to us about your book. I love your excitement about the history of information. It's really, really contagious. I'll now pass the mic back to the DK team for the rest of today's title presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca, and I'm the marketing coordinator for education and library at DK. Thank you so much to Chris and Sarah for their wonderful discussion about the history of information. And thank you so much to you all for tuning into today's webinar. I'm so excited for the opportunity to now share some of our available and forthcoming titles for both children's and adult. Now, before I dive in, I want to mention that if a book or series is available in ebook or as a Spanish language edition, this will be mentioned on the slide. Now let's begin with our children's titles. First up, I would like to re-highlight Chris Haughton's book, The History of Information. As you have just heard, this debut nonfiction book from the best-selling author and illustrator explores the story of information throughout human history. What is it that drives progress and technological advancement? The answer is information. If we can record information, we can collect it, share it, and continue growing our collective pool of knowledge. The ability to record in the forms of writing and collecting data has caused an explosion of progress. This book tells the story of how humans came to collect and record information and what it means for us. Next, I'd like to highlight new titles coming to the A Kid's Book About series, which explores conversations on the important and often more difficult parts of life. Topics in this series are handled mindfully, and the books are meant for children as young as 5. Some of these are existing titles that are already out in the world, but by being under the DK umbrella, they will now be easier for you to obtain through your preferred wholesaler. In January and February, the books out will be a kid's book about money, equality, love, feminism, and adventure. In March and April, the books out will include a kid's book about confidence, climate change, being transgender, being non-binary, and being inclusive. We're so excited to announce that 6 sets of the Phonic Book books will be available as library bind-ups. Phonic Books offers an exciting range of decodable books for beginner readers and older readers. With multiple series that build on learned letter sound knowledge, they pave a structured scaffold that can be effectively integrated into any phonics instructions program. For the library bind-ups, 3 sets are for beginner readers ages 5 to 7, while the other 3 are for older readers ages 8 to 14 plus, and feature age-appropriate illustrations and storylines that support older readers who need to bridge gaps in phonics skills. Next up, we have the DK Super Readers, an evolution of the ever-popular DK Reader series. This new and improved nonfiction leveled reader series is designed for kids ages 3 to 11 and is divided into 5 levels from pre-level to level 4, all aligned to Lexile measures. In 2023, we published 125 titles covering science-based topics, from dinosaurs to wild animals to inventions in AI and more. And next spring, we'll launch 5 super readers across our 5 levels that focus on social studies topics: A Bear's Tale, A Puerto Rican Childhood, Journey of a Pioneer, Titanic, and Journey Through Ellis Island. We will also publish 5 Arabic bilingual editions of the DK Super Readers next March, 1 in each level. We are really excited to have this added offering to support our bilingual learners. For more information, visit the Super Readers website, available on this slide and also on the back of every DK Super Reader via a QR code. The site holds tons of information and free downloadable resources for parents, educators, and librarians. From reading guides to achievement certificates and mask cutout crafts, these resources will help kids become the reading heroes they are. Now let's explore some chapter books. Next spring, we'll be publishing Dinosaur Club, Flight of the Quetzalcoatlus. And yes, I did practice saying that 5 times fast. Jamie has just moved to Ammonite Bay, a stretch of coastline famous for its fossils. He is exploring when he discovers dinosaur footprints and is transported back to the time of the dinosaurs. That's when he comes across a massive dinosaur, the largest animal in history ever to fly. That's the Quetzalcoatlus, and needs help from the Dinosaur Club. This is the latest addition to this exciting time-traveling dino series. Packed with knowledge, up-to-date discoveries, glossaries, and a thrilling storyline, Dinosaur Club is the ultimate Jurassic adventure. Next up, we have The Timekeepers, DK's new chapter book series for kids ages 7 to 9. The Timekeepers are a secret organization of kids who keep the course of history on track, all while a villain named Delay is set on causing chaos. When the hands on their special watches start to spin backwards, the Timekeepers know that Delay is up to no good, and it's up to them to make things right. With a range of exciting adventures that span all of history, the Timekeeper series is the perfect mix of fictional story and historical facts. The books even include a reference section with more information on the historical topic to extend readers' interest. The 3rd book of this series, Eiffel Tower Emergency, will be available in February. Next, I'd like to highlight some eyewitness books coming out next year. As you may know, 2 summers ago, the look and feel of the Eyewitness series was updated with a new look, more facts, and more fun for today's generation of kids ages. However, the series still maintains the same well-loved approach of visually stunning, immersive knowledge built around a singular topic. Be sure to keep your eyes out for Eyewitness Bird, Flight, and Viking publishing next spring. Plus, if you haven't already, check out the Eyewitness Encyclopedia of Everything. Out now, this landmark publication is the pinnacle of 35 years of eyewitness history, collaboration, and innovation. Readers will encounter the world's greatest record breakers, the most deadly creatures, history's heroes and villains, and science's most incredible inventions, all as they've never seen them before. Plus, to celebrate the landmark publication of Eyewitness Encyclopedia of Everything, we'll be hosting a very special event next Tuesday, November 14th from 1 to 2 p.m. EST, and we would love to invite you. Kids have a lot of questions, and we know that not all of them are easily answerable. In this epic live-streamed event, the beloved librarian and content creator Michael Threets will be hosting a Q&A with 4 ologists who are the brains behind the best-selling series of eyewitness children's books. While the giveaway portion of the event is closed, there is still time to sign up to live stream the event in your library. We hope to see you there. And this is just a reminder that DK's Spanish language publishing list continues to grow both on the children's and adult sides. Highlighted here are just a few of next year's forthcoming and newest. Now let's dive into our top spring adult title picks. I'd love to start with a special shout out to DK's New York Times best-selling books of 2023. Joshua Wiseman's Texture Over Taste, Baking Yesteryear by B. Dylan Hollis, Safe and Sound by Mercury Stardust, Knife Drop by Nick DiGiovanni, Healthy Girl Kitchen by Danielle Brown, and Meal She Eats by Ton and Rachel Sullivan. These books are all available now. In 2021, the Science Museum made a once-in-a-lifetime acquisition of the contents of Stephen Hawking's office. This book, Stephen Hawking, Genius at Work, delves into that remarkable collection, using the seminal papers, items, and curiosities in his office to explain Hawking's theories and reveal more about one of the greatest minds in modern science. Artifacts range from a copy of Hawking's PhD thesis to his blackboard where he debated ideas and doodled with his contemporaries to a Simpsons bomber jacket gifted to him, and so much more. This is a truly special behind-the-scenes glimpse into the life of one of the world's most prominent scientific thinkers. Now, everything may be beginning to freeze over as we now approach winter, but in the spring, when the outdoors will be blooming, there is truly no better time to learn about gardening and wildlife. In fungi, discover the fascinating stories behind 300 species of fungi. Did you know that fungi puts the fizz in champagne and the flavor in chocolate? In this gorgeous book, 2 leading fungal biologists explore the healing properties of shiitake, the stories of enchanted fairy ruins, and so much more as they bring us closer to the technology, medicine, food, culture, and nature of this hidden kingdom. Beginner Gardening Step by Step is packed full of creative ideas with simple step-by-step instructions to help you realize your garden's potential no matter the size or scale. From training decorative climbers to growing your own tomatoes, get to know your garden and choose plants that will thrive in your space. Gardening Through the Year guides readers in getting ahead in the garden no matter the season. Discover specific monthly tasks for every part of the garden, expert plant advice, and invaluable last chance features. This month-by-month guide will inspire you to make the most of your green space all year long. Africa explores the history, cultures, music, literature, religions, languages, and more of the world's second largest continent in vivid detail. Engaging photography and texts written by experts bring to life the vast and intricate stories that shape Africa and the world around it, from influential empires and kingdoms through the struggle against colonization and the fight for independence to Africa's vital place on the global stage today. Next, I'd like to introduce you to some of the latest in DK Eyewitness travel. Turn the pages of U.S. national parks, and you'll discover staggering landscapes of jaw-dropping dimensions as you stand on the very edge of civilization. With the help of maps, figures, and facts, U.S. National Parks introduces you to all 63 national parks and explores the countless breathtaking places to hike, camp, climb, swim, and create lifelong memories. Unforgettable Journeys, the Americas, is a vibrant celebration of taking the scenic route across the Americas. Imagine soaking up the oceanside scenery on a drive along the Pacific Coast Highway, cruising along the Amazon, or taking an epic train ride for the Canadian Rockies. With over 150 entries, this book features both iconic routes and off-the-beaten-path places that are sure to inspire your next adventure. We also have new additions to the DK Eyewitness travel guides, covering New Orleans, the Netherlands, Sicily, Sweden, and many more places. Filled with color-coded chapters, practical tips and illustrations, detailed maps and walks, and so much more, this series helps you make the most of your travels and ensures you don't miss a thing. Plus, check out the newest additions to our popular DK Eyewitness Top 10 series, including the Greek islands, Los Angeles, Valencia, and many more. With simple, up-to-date themed lists of 10 that cover the best of each city, these pocket-friendly guides will ensure you don't miss a thing. Now, before we head off, here's a quick reminder to follow DK on social media to receive all the latest DK news and offerings. This year, we launched a new channel, DK Living, on Instagram and Facebook, and this channel is dedicated to adult lifestyle and reference titles. So be sure to give us a follow if that interests you. And for our children's books, you can follow us at DK Books US. And for any school librarians, be sure to check out our education-focused site, DK Learning, which is packed with curated, free content for educators, all browsable by grade level, subject, topic, and subtopic. And don't forget to follow us on our education-focused social accounts as well. Thank you so much to everyone for joining today and for all that you do for your students, your patrons, and your communities. We truly appreciate you. And a huge thank you to Chris and Sarah for their wonderful discussion and for adding so much to today's webinar. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much to the DK team for sharing those wonderful titles today. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, title list, slide presentation, and certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit www.booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Between January 1st and August 31st, 2023, ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom documented challenges to 1,915 unique titles, an increase of 20% from the same reporting period in 2022. Join the fight to protect the freedom to read by supporting the Unite Against Book Bans campaign and visit their website, uniteagainstbookbans.org, for resources, toolkits, merchandise to donate, and more. And remember that you can utilize Booklist to support your library's collection development choices with reviews backed by the ALA. We have a special webinar subscription offer, and don't forget that your subscription dollars help ALA advocate on behalf of libraries, assisting those facing an unprecedented number of book challenges. Email us at info@booklistonline.com for more information. We have a special announcement today, introducing Booklist's Book Club, a year-long partnership with your favorite publishers. Each month, Booklist will showcase book club picks and supporting materials from a different publisher, offering a wide range of genres and age groups to fit the needs of any book discussion group. This month's sponsor, Macmillan Library, has tons of resources for your book groups. To find out more information, scan the QR code on this slide or visit our website. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. And one more huge thank you to our guest, Chris Haughton, and to our sponsor, DK. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.